This is TWiT.
The summer is winding down to a close, as unbelievable as that may be at this point, and teens across the country are trading in their summer jobs for fall classrooms, or so I thought. Some of them are. Others will probably continue working their summer jobs indefinitely, possibly even from the classroom, I don't know, when they return, as they continue monetizing their Instagram accounts. Joining us to talk about this new kind of summer job is Taylor Lorenz from The Atlantic. Welcome, Taylor.
Hi, guys.
It's so great to have you here. Thank you for joining us. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about how these teens are kind of becoming the facilitators of sponsored content on Instagram. I didn't even realize this was happening.
Yeah, so basically, sorry, I'm a little low. Here, let me fix this. Is this good? Okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay. So basically, I mean, more and more brands are looking to work with sort of regular, I guess, quote unquote, regular teens instead of traditional influencers. They feel like it's just more organic. The teens do a good job of promoting it. It seems more natural to have like a post from your friend, promoting something as opposed to something from some aspirational influencer. So they're sort of like reaching out more directly to these teens on Instagram and offering them sponsored deals.
Of all the things that I thought I would have to teach my teenagers, I didn't think it was don't use your friends to sell stuff. But apparently that is something that, I mean, because does that come, I know you talk to a lot of teenagers. Does that come naturally to them? Do they understand, like, wow, like all these people are following me because they want to see me, just have fun throughout my day, and then I'm using them to sell a product?
I don't think they think of it that way. I don't think that they think of it as using anyone. I think they just sort of I think teens increasingly kind of recognize their own sort of cultural capital that they have from being a teen. Brands want to work with them. So it's not really seen as like selling out or spammy in the same way. So, I mean, like most kids I talk to, like if their friend did a brand deal, they were like, oh, that's awesome. Like get money. Like, sure, I would do the same thing. Like also asking their friend to put them in touch. So I think it's kind of like, they don't really care. A lot of them have multiple Instagram accounts too. So it's not like, this huge thing where they're suddenly like spamming all their best friends.
So talking about, friends on Instagram, how many are we talking about here? Because I mean, in the old guard, I would say, there was a lot of emphasis on you've got to have amassed this huge follower count. But I mean, I'm just guessing a lot of these, the kids that are agreeing to do this probably don't have hundreds of thousands of followers, right? They have a select few. Is it more about quality versus quantity?
Yeah, I mean, they might have like 800 to 1,000 followers, which is like not that much. Maybe they'll have 2,000, 3,000. These brands are pretty much eager to work with any teens that have an organic audience of other teens. So, they don't, and they're only paying like $5, $10. So they don't, it's not a huge, they don't really need somebody with that much scale. They don't really want someone that seems almost more inauthentic to have that kind of scale. So, it's a lot of teens that are just sort of have a few thousand followers. I mean, some kids, of course, have more like 20,000, or some kids have like a meme account that they've grown bigger, that they're monetizing. But for the most part, they're kind of like the kids are like 10,000 followers or under, which is not very much for a teen.
Mm-hmm. So they don't feel like they're selling out. So is there a downside to this? I mean, I know you write about how some teens are taken advantage of. There aren't a lot of contracts. Can you talk a little bit about how the shadiness that might be going on among these advertisers and teenagers?
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of room for, shady behavior and for these companies to take advantage of the kids. There was this huge blow up with this account called So Aesthetic Shop, which was this online retailer that was refusing to pay all of these teens. And over 20 girls had actually done work for So Aesthetic and not received payment. And also the people were sort of bullying them. Like the owner of the account would just block them when they asked for their money. And, they were doing a lot of hours of unpaid labor. And so that kind of, predatory behavior is more common in these types of situations, just because like these girls are like 13 or 14 years old. They're not negotiating contracts. There's no adult supervision. So, sometimes they can get taken advantage of. They kind of accept that. Like the girls I talked to were like, yeah, even if like 10% of the, deals I do, I'd end up not getting paid for, like I'm still getting money in my pocket. So
Yeah, getting money using social media. Like I imagine, especially as a teen, like that's kind of a dream right there. Because I mean, and there are a lot of a lot of people that they are following who are doing the same thing. Stars, celebrities. They're using these platforms to do just that. So it's almost a way for them to kind of connect on that level and be like, yeah, I'm doing that too, making some money. Of course, I'm going to be happy to do that.
A lot of the places where these brands find these girls is in the comment section of popular YouTubers. So, like these teenagers will comment on popular YouTubers' Instagrams like, oh my God, you look so pretty. I love your hair, whatever. And a brand will like slide into their DMs like, hey, are you a teen? Like, we want to work with you.
That sounds so ominous.
Hello, teen.
So weird. I know. I was like, do you guys get creeped out? And they're like, not really. I don't care. Some of them made email addresses, but they're kind of like, they're getting the money over PayPal too. So, they kind of don't really care.
Yeah. Hey. All right.
Do you think their parents know that they're making this money?
Yeah, good question.
I would say 50-50. I talked to a lot of girls where their parents don't know. They have, in some cases, hundreds of dollars in PayPal that they sort of use to shop online. And, they buy the kind of stuff that's their parents probably wouldn't buy for them. And other girls, did tell their parents. I interviewed a few parents who did know for the story, and they were all really proud of their kids. Like, the one mom who I think I quoted was very nervous at first. She was like, what do you mean this brand is messaging my 13-year-old daughter? But once she sort of saw, what her daughter was learning, she was proud. Like a lot of the parents I spoke to were like, look, is this kind of shady of the business to be paying my daughter $10? Yeah, but at the same time, it's teaching her business skills. It's teaching her marketing, sales requests. It teaches them responsibility. Like these girls will have to deliver on their sponsored content by a certain date and, get stuff together. So it sort of teaches them, I don't know, it teaches them really good skills. It's just obviously, none of them are going full. They're still balancing that with schoolwork and other things. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a very entrepreneurial, it's like a window into an entrepreneurial world. And who knows what that blossoms into as they get older. That could be a big deal.
I mean, a lot of these kids, some of them are just like insane Instagram marketers. So, they'll just like, they have a very deep understanding of like social media marketing. Some of the kids, some of the stores, some of the retailers that pay these kids are actually run by teens themselves. So a couple of kids that sort of got into sponsored content over the past few years were like, hey, why am I only getting paid $10 from these stores? I could just set up my own online store, market it with my other teen friends, and make a lot of money. Some kids have made tens of thousands of dollars that way.
So smart. That's
yeah.
Smart. Well, okay, we're shifting gears entirely. Like these two stories are completely different. But you posted, Taylor, you wrote earlier this week about how teens are increasingly more aware, more clued in on current events, particularly political events. And personally, like, it's awesome to see teens so engaged with politics. Yet what you're writing about, you tell us about how teens view politics and news media as they grow up socializing in social media. And there's not a whole lot of positive as far as how they view the news in light of where we are right now in the world of social media. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I sort of wrote a story basically about the ways that teens view media. It is negative in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, I think teens have huge skepticism, especially towards traditional news outlets. So, there's all these like cries from the president and older people of fake news, and that's really carried over for a lot of teens too. I mean, keep in mind, like, skepticism and sort of anger and negative associations with the mainstream media, like those levels are already very high within adults. So it is unsurprising that it would trickle down to teens, because teens are ultimately living in those households, and if they hear their parents saying stuff like that, they're gonna naturally kind of be susceptible to it. But it's also the fact that they're growing up on the internet and they kind of don't believe anything they see. They kind of have like an innate skepticism towards things, which you would think would be good, but they have that skepticism carries so far into the fact that they question like actual reported news. I think also they've seen how biased and sort of like headline, like attention grabby certain headlines can be. They kind of are familiar with the whole viral content cycle. And so, they just don't really trust hard news sources very much the way that previous generations of kids did.
Well, did they? Because, I mean, I'm thinking of like trust no one over 35. Like, I mean, isn't this like a thing that, everyone's generation experiences? How is it different?
Not to this extent. I mean, I think what's different now is that the media is sort of more saturated than ever. So while, kids are always skeptical, kids are always also like not believing what their parents say and kind of always like, there's like a huge counterculture. But I think the media environment right now has changed so much. So the fact that there are so many hyper-partisan sites and independent news journalists that are usually very partisan. So I think like kids pick up on that. And with social media and just like the fact that like there is rampant misinformation, I think that they're just way more skeptical. They also are more likely to seek out news from like individual people rather than like institutions. So they're more likely to trust like a YouTuber or a podcaster that they know really well and sort of know their biases, as opposed to like the New York Times, where they feel like, they're biased. They're just not admitting it.
Yeah, fascinating. And you also talk a little bit about political Instagram, which is another. Yeah. Apparently, I know nothing about Instagram, which I fully admit. But the politics Instagram is really crazy and interesting. I want to do another story on like teen politics influencers because it's this whole world. Sure.
But I think like a lot of kids, they go onto social media by default to kind of find out more information about what they're reading. So Instagram is obviously a natural outlet for that, and Twitter, of course, too.
Yeah. Taylor Lorenz with The Atlantic. I'm a huge fan of your work. I really appreciate you taking time.
Thanks, guys. Sorry about the janky feed.
No, it's all good.
I appreciate you having me.
It all worked out, Taylor, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll reach out again. You write great stuff, so we'll follow you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.